The moment Victoria Hale's fingers brushed against Lucas Reed's collar to straighten his tie, the entire boardroom held its breath. And so did he. What happens when a single father at rock bottom meets a CEO who sees past his resume and into his soul? When professional boundaries blur and two broken people discover something neither expected to find again. This is their story, a journey from desperation to hope, from loneliness to connection, from survival to something that looks dangerously like love. Stay until the end. Hit that like button. Comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Let's begin. The glass tower stood 60 stories high, reflecting the morning sun like a monument to ambition. Lucas Reed stared up at it from the sidewalk, his leather portfolio worn at the edges, his suit jacket pressed but slightly too big across the shoulders, a remnant from better days when he'd had time to eat properly, when life hadn't been an endless marathon of survival. He checked his watch. 7 minutes early. Perfect. Or it would have been if his hands weren't shaking. "You've got this, Daddy." The memory of his daughter's voice from that morning echoed in his mind. Emma, 6 years old, standing in their tiny apartment kitchen with her backpack already on, cereal bowl half finished. She'd straightened his tie with her small hands, mimicking something she'd seen in a movie, her face serious with concentration. "I've got this," Lucas whispered to himself now, and pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was all marble and steel, the kind of space designed to make you feel small. A security guard directed him to the elevator bank. Floor 47, executive level. Lucas's heart hammered as the elevator climbed. This was his 9th interview in 3 months. The others had gone nowhere. Overqualified for some positions, underqualified for others, always some polite reason why he wasn't quite right. But this one had felt different from the first phone call. The recruiter had actually asked about his gap in employment, had listened when he'd explained simply, "Family emergency, personal loss. I'm ready to return now." No pity, no awkward condolences, just, "We'd like to meet you." The elevator doors opened onto a reception area that could have belonged in a design magazine. A young woman with perfect posture smiled at him. "Mr. Reed, they're ready for you in conference room A. Straight down the hall, last door on the right." "Thank you." His footsteps were too loud on the polished floor. Or maybe that was just his imagination. Everything felt amplified, the fluorescent lights, the faint hum of air conditioning, the weight of his own desperation. He couldn't fail this. Not again. Emma needed stability. She needed insurance, a real home, a father who came home at reasonable hours instead of cobbling together freelance work at midnight. She needed him to be whole again, even if he had no idea how to get there. Conference room A had glass walls that offered a panoramic view of the city. 3 people sat at a long table, 2 men in sharp suits, and a woman whose presence seemed to command the space without effort. Victoria Hale. Lucas had researched her, of course. 42 years old, CEO for 6 years, Harvard MBA, featured in Forbes, Fast Company, The Wall Street Journal, known for turning struggling companies into industry leaders. The articles called her brilliant, demanding, uncompromising. None of them had mentioned that she was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with magazines. Something in the directness of her gaze, the economy of her movements, the way she held herself like someone who'd earned every inch of space she occupied. "Mr. Reed." She stood, extended her hand. Her grip was firm, brief. "Victoria Hale, please, sit. Thank you for meeting with me." The 2 men introduced themselves, James from operations, Derek from finance, but Lucas barely registered their names. He was too aware of Victoria's attention, the way she studied him with an intensity that felt like being seen through glass. "Your resume is impressive," she began, fingers steepled on the table. 7 years at Morrison and Associates, project management, client relations, strategic development, strong performance reviews. Then a 2-year gap, followed by freelance consulting. Here it comes, Lucas thought. The question every interviewer asked, the one he'd learned to answer carefully, revealing enough to be honest, but not so much that they'd see the raw wound underneath. "The gap," he said steadily, "was due to a family situation that required my full attention. My wife passed away unexpectedly, and I became a single father to our daughter. I needed time to stabilize our life, to be present for her. The freelance work allowed me flexibility while she adjusted. There, clinical, factual, no invitation for pity. Victoria's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. And now you're ready to return to full-time work? I am. Emma, my daughter, she's in school full-time now. We found our rhythm. I'm looking for the right opportunity to build on what I've learned. Derek leaned forward. What exactly have you learned? 2 years is a long time away from this pace. Lucas met his gaze. I learned how to function on 3 hours of sleep, how to prioritize when everything feels urgent, how to solve problems with limited resources, how to stay focused when everything around you is falling apart. The words came out harder than he'd intended, but he didn't soften them. They were true. I learned, he continued, more controlled now, that I'm more resilient than I thought, that I can carry more weight than seems possible. And I learned that when you're responsible for someone else's entire world, you don't get the luxury of quitting. Silence filled the room. Then Victoria spoke. Those are valuable skills, not typically listed on resumes, but valuable nonetheless. James jumped in with technical questions about project workflows, stakeholder management, software proficiencies. Lucas answered on autopilot, the practice part of his brain handling the familiar territory while another part of him remained hyper-aware of Victoria, the way she listened more than she spoke, the occasional note she made on the tablet in front of her. 30 minutes passed. 45. The interview was winding down, the energy shifting toward conclusion, and Lucas felt the familiar drop in his stomach that meant another door was closing. Do you have questions for us? Victoria asked. Lucas had prepared 3. He'd practiced them the night before while Emma did her homework at their kitchen table. But suddenly they felt hollow, inadequate. What are you really looking for? He asked instead. Not the job description. What do you need that isn't on paper? Victoria's eyebrow arched slightly. Honesty. That's refreshing. She stood, and Lucas realized the interview was over. He'd blown it with the off-script question, the raw edge in his voice, all of it. But then she walked around the table, and he stood too, uncertain, and she looked at him with those sharp, assessing eyes and said, We need someone who won't break under pressure. Someone who understands that excellence isn't optional. Someone who can lead a team through hell if necessary and come out the other side with results. Her gaze dropped to his collar. But first we need someone who knows how to tie a tie properly. Lucas's hand flew to his neck where the knot had somehow twisted sideways during the interview. Heat flooded his face. Of all the ways to destroy a last impression, Victoria stepped closer, into his personal space, and reached up. May I? He nodded, mute, frozen. Her fingers were cool and efficient, loosening the knot, straightening the fabric, retying it with practiced precision. The gesture took perhaps 10 seconds. 10 seconds during which Lucas stopped breathing, during which the conference room and James and Derek and the entire city beyond the glass walls ceased to exist. This close he could see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, the single strand of gray at her temple, the faint scar on her jawline barely visible beneath makeup. She smelled like something subtle and expensive, cedar and bergamot maybe, nothing sweet. She finished adjusting the tie, smoothed his collar, and stepped back. There. Her voice was matter-of-fact, professional. Better. But her eyes held something else. Something Lucas couldn't name. Thank you, he managed. Victoria returned to her seat, all business again. We'll be in touch within the week, Mr. Reed. James will walk you out. The hallway outside the conference room felt airless. James made small talk about the company culture, the benefits package, the downtown location. Lucas responded automatically, his mind replaying those 10 seconds on loop. What the hell had just happened? In the elevator, descending, he caught his reflection in the polished doors. The tie was perfect now, Windsor knot centered and tight. He looked almost put together, almost like someone who had his life under control. Almost. The call came 3 days later. Lucas was at the playground with Emma, pushing her on the swings, when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Lucas Reed. Mr. Reed, this is Victoria Hale. His hand tightened on the phone. Miss Hale. Hello. Emma dragged her feet in the dirt, slowing the swing. Higher, Daddy. Just a moment, sweetheart. He stepped away, heart racing. I'm here. Sorry. Is this a bad time? No, it's fine. I'm calling to offer you the position. Victoria's voice was crisp, direct. Director of Strategic Operations. Salary and benefits package will be emailed to you within the hour. I'd like you to start Monday if possible. Lucas's knees nearly buckled. Yes, I accept. Thank you. I won't let you down. I know you won't. A pause. The work will be demanding. Long hours, high stakes. Are you certain your personal situation can accommodate that? It can. He would make it work. He had to. Good. Welcome to the team, Mr. Reed. The line went dead. Lucas stood there, phone pressed to his ear, sunshine warm on his face. Emma's laughter bright in the background, and felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. Monday morning arrived with the weight of a new beginning. Lucas had spent the weekend preparing, arranging extended care at Emma's school, meal prepping for the week, laying out clothes, setting triple alarms. He'd even practiced the commute on Sunday, timing the subway ride, locating the nearest coffee shop, memorizing the building's layout. Nothing could be left to chance. Emma had been excited at breakfast, asking if he was nervous, if he liked his new boss, if there were other kids at his work. He'd tried to match her enthusiasm, but anxiety gnawed at him. What if he'd oversold himself? What if 2 years away had dulled his edge more than he realized? What if Victoria Hale's faith in him was misplaced? The executive floor was buzzing when he arrived at 8 sharp. People moved with purpose, conversations clipping past, everyone projecting competence and urgency. Lucas followed the directions HR had emailed, found his office, an actual office with a door and a window, and stood in the doorway, momentarily overwhelmed. Not bad for a first day. He turned. Victoria stood behind him, dressed in charcoal gray, hair pulled back, carrying a leather portfolio and a coffee cup with the company logo. It's more than I expected, Lucas admitted. You'll earn it. She gestured inside. Get settled. We have a team meeting at 9, then I want to brief you on your first project. It's urgent. I'm ready. She studied him for a moment, that same assessing look from the interview. I believe you are. The morning passed in a blur of introductions, orientations, system logins, and information overload. The team meeting revealed the scope of his responsibilities, 5 direct reports, 3 major accounts, a product launch scheduled for Q4 that was already behind timeline. Lucas took notes, asked questions, tried to absorb the company culture quickly. His team seemed cautious but professional, willing to give him a chance. No one mentioned his gap in employment. No one asked about his personal life. By noon, his head was spinning. Lunch? Victoria appeared at his office door. There's a cafe on the 3rd floor. We can talk through the Q4 launch. They rode the elevator down in silence. The cafe was half full, mostly employees grabbing quick meals between meetings. Victoria ordered a salad, Lucas a sandwich, and they claimed a table by the window. How are you holding up? She asked, spearing a piece of grilled chicken. Drinking from a fire hose, but I'll manage. The pace doesn't slow down here. If anything, it accelerates. I understand. Victoria set down her fork. Do you? Because I need to know, Lucas. If the pressure becomes too much, if your personal responsibilities conflict with deadlines, I need you to tell me immediately. Not after a project fails. Not when it's too late to fix. Immediately. The use of his first name caught him off guard. I will. I'm serious. Her voice was low, intense. I don't tolerate failure, but I also don't tolerate silence. If you're drowning, speak up. Why did you hire me? The question escaped before he could stop it. Victoria leaned back, considering. You want the honest answer? Please. Because I saw someone who's already survived the worst thing that could happen to them. Someone who rebuilt from nothing and kept moving forward. That kind of resilience can't be taught. She paused. And because when I fixed your tie, you didn't make excuses or act offended. You were vulnerable for exactly 3 seconds, then you recovered and finished strong. That told me everything I needed to know. Lucas swallowed hard. I won't waste this opportunity. I know. Victoria's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it. We need to get back. Budget review at 1:30. As they walked to the elevator, Lucas felt the weight of her expectations settling on his shoulders, heavy, but somehow bearable. Maybe even necessary. This was what he'd needed. Structure, purpose. A reason to be sharp again. He could do this. Dad. The first week passed in a controlled chaos of learning curves and late nights. Lucas arrived early, stayed late, took work home, studied account histories until his eyes burned. Emma adjusted to the new routine with the resilience of children, though she asked more questions now. Why he was tired, when he'd be home, if he still liked his job.
I do, sweetheart, he assured her, tucking her in on Friday night. It's just busy right now. Your boss seems nice, Emma said, hugging her stuffed rabbit. You talk about her a lot. Did he? Lucas hadn't noticed. She's very professional. Is she pretty? Emma, Sarah's mom says all bosses are mean, but you don't seem scared of her. Lucas smoothed his daughter's hair, so like her mother's, it sometimes hurt to look at. I respect her. That's different from being scared. Okay, Emma yawned. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, kiddo.
He closed her door gently and returned to his laptop, where a project timeline mocked him with its impossible deadlines. The Q4 launch was a disaster in slow motion. Vendor delays, design revisions, stakeholder conflicts. His team was capable but stretched thin, and the previous director had left a mess of incomplete documentation and unclear priorities. Lucas rubbed his eyes and dove back in. An email notification popped up. Victoria Hale, sent at 11:47 p.m. Saw your status still active. Go to sleep, Lucas. Tomorrow is soon enough. He stared at the message, surprised by the informality, the use of his first name again. Before he could overthink it, he typed back, almost done. Thank you. 3 dots appeared, indicating she was typing. Then, that wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. Exhausted directors make expensive mistakes. Despite himself, Lucas smiled. He closed the laptop. Yes, ma'am. Logging off now. Her response came instantly. Better. See you Monday. You. He sat in the quiet apartment, the city's ambient noise filtering through the windows, and felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Not quite happiness. He wasn't sure he remembered what that felt like anymore, but something lighter than the constant weight he'd carried for 2 years. Maybe relief. Maybe possibility. Maybe just the simple recognition that someone saw him working, saw him trying, and cared enough to tell him to rest. 3 weeks into the job, the crisis hit. The Q4 product launch depended on a manufacturing partner in Ohio. The partner had guaranteed delivery of prototype units by mid-September. September 15th came and went with no delivery, no communication, just radio silence that sent Lucas's anxiety into overdrive. He called, he emailed, he escalated through every contact he had. Nothing. On September 21st, the vendor finally responded. Equipment failure, timeline pushed back 3 weeks, maybe 4. They'd know more soon. Lucas sat at his desk, staring at the email, doing the math. 3 weeks meant October 12th at the earliest. The product launch was scheduled for November 1st. That left 2 weeks for testing, revisions, packaging, distribution, marketing coordination. Impossible. He drafted a report outlining options. Delay the launch, switch vendors, losing money and time, reduce the product scope, or attempt an accelerated timeline that would require round-the-clock work from multiple teams. All bad choices. He scheduled a meeting with Victoria for 4 p.m. When he entered her office, she was on a call, but she gestured him in and ended the conversation quickly. What's wrong? She read his face instantly. Lucas handed her the report. Ohio vendor failed us. We're 3 weeks behind on prototypes, and I don't see a path forward that doesn't involve significant compromise. Victoria scanned the document, her expression unreadable. Lucas waited, tension coiling in his gut. This was his first major project. If it failed, if the launch collapsed, his credibility would be destroyed before he'd even established it. Recommendations? Victoria asked. Switch vendors. Take the financial hit now rather than rush a substandard product to market. Delay the launch to Q1. Give us time to do it right. That costs us the holiday season, millions in potential revenue. I know, but a failed product launch costs us reputation. That's harder to rebuild.
Victoria set down the report. I agree. Lucas blinked. You do? The vendor failed us, not you. Your analysis is sound. Your recommendation is correct. She tapped the paper. Make the switch. Find the best alternative vendor. I don't care what it costs. And Lucas? Yes? This is exactly the kind of crisis I hired you to handle. You didn't panic. You didn't hide the problem. You came to me with solutions. She met his eyes. Well done. The relief was dizzying. Thank you. I'll get started immediately. One more thing. Victoria stood, walked to the window. The city sprawled below them, evening light painting the buildings gold. I'm going to assign you additional support. Rachel from logistics, Mark from finance. This becomes a priority 1 project, full resources. I appreciate that. Don't thank me yet. It means longer hours, more pressure, higher visibility. If we pull this off, you'll have proven yourself. If we fail, she turned to face him. Well, let's not fail. Lucas nodded. We won't. Good. Now go home. See your daughter. Monday, we start the fight. He left her office feeling simultaneously terrified and energized. The challenge was massive, the stakes real, but for the first time since Sarah died, he felt like himself again. The version of Lucas who thrived under pressure, who solved impossible problems, who didn't break. The man he'd thought he'd lost forever. October arrived with a vengeance. The new vendor was better but more expensive, and the accelerated timeline required Lucas to work 70-hour weeks. He arrived at the office by 7 a.m. and rarely left before 8 p.m. Weekends became half-days of catch-up and crisis management. Emma noticed. Of course she noticed. You're tired all the time, she said one evening, watching him heat up leftover pasta. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Is it because of your job? It's a big project. It'll calm down soon. But Emma's face had that look, the one that meant she was trying to be brave, trying not to add to his burden. It broke his heart. Come here. Lucas knelt down, pulled her into a hug. I know this is hard. I know I'm not around as much as you need, but I'm doing this for us, okay? So we can have a good life. We already have a good life, Emma said into his shoulder. Lucas closed his eyes against the sting of tears. You're right. We do. That Saturday, Emma had a school event, a fall festival with games and face painting and a costume parade. She'd been talking about it for weeks. Lucas had promised he'd be there. But Saturday morning, the vendor called with a quality control issue. Critical. Needed immediate attention. Lucas stared at his phone, Emma's hopeful face across the breakfast table, and felt the walls closing in. I have to make a quick call, he told her. Eat your pancakes. In his bedroom, he dialed Victoria's direct line, not caring that it was 8 a.m. on a weekend. She answered on the second ring. Lucas, what's wrong? Vendor issue. QC flagged a defect in the prototype batch. We need to decide whether to reject the entire shipment or accept with modifications. How bad is the defect? Cosmetic, not functional, but it's visible. It affects the premium positioning. Victoria was quiet for a moment. What do you think? I think we reject it, but that costs us another week. Then we reject it. Call the vendor, make it clear the standards are non-negotiable. I'll handle the timeline adjustment with the executive team. Thank you. Lucas exhaled. I'm sorry to bother you on a weekend. You're not bothering me. This is your job. But Lucas, where are you right now? The question surprised him. Home. Why? Do you have somewhere you need to be? He glanced toward the kitchen, where Emma was humming to herself. My daughter has a school event. I promised I'd go. Then go. But the vendor can wait until Monday. The defect isn't going anywhere. Make the call, inform them we're rejecting the shipment, then turn off your phone and go be with your daughter. Victoria's voice was firm. That's an order. Lucas felt something tight in his chest loosen. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. You've been running yourself into the ground for 6 weeks. Take a day. I'll survive without you. Thank you, Victoria. Don't thank me. Just go make your kid happy. He ended the call, made the quick call to the vendor, then returned to the kitchen where Emma was drizzling syrup into elaborate patterns on her plate. Who are you talking to? She asked.
My boss, guess what? What? I'm all yours today. Let's go to that festival and win you the biggest stuffed animal they have. Emma's face lit up like sunrise. Really? Really. She threw her arms around him, and Lucas held on tight, grateful for Victoria Hale's unexpected gift. The permission to be a father first, an employee second, even if just for one day. Bounce. The festival was chaos in the best way. Children everywhere, music playing, the smell of popcorn and cider, Emma's laughter as she won a goldfish at the ring toss. Lucas tried to be present, to silence the voice in his head, cataloging all the work waiting for him. Mostly, he succeeded. He painted a butterfly on Emma's cheek, applauded her costume, a surprisingly convincing pirate, ate terrible cotton candy, and felt the knot of tension in his shoulders gradually unwind. As the afternoon faded into evening, he carried a sleeping Emma to the car, her pirate hat askew, the goldfish bowl balanced carefully in his other hand. On the drive home, his phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Hope the festival was good. See you Monday. We'll fix the vendor mess together. Lucas glanced at Emma in the rearview mirror, then typed back one-handed. It was perfect. Thank you. Her response came as he pulled into his parking space. Everyone needs a day off, Lucas, even you, especially you. He sat in the quiet car, Emma breathing softly in the back seat, and felt gratitude so intense it was almost painful. Victoria Hale was his boss, demanding and exacting, but she was also something else. Someone who understood that people were more than their productivity, that breaking point was real, that sometimes the most important thing wasn't the deadline, but the person trying to meet it. Someone who saw him, really saw him. And that recognition, that basic human kindness, meant more than Lucas knew how to express. By late October, the project was back on track. The new vendor delivered flawless prototypes. Testing revealed minor issues, easily fixed. The marketing team coordinated messaging. Distribution channels confirmed capacity. It was working. Lucas allowed himself to believe they might actually pull it off. The day everything fell apart was October 27th. Emma woke up crying, her forehead burning. Lucas took her temperature, 103.4. He gave her children's Tylenol, called the pediatrician, got an appointment for 9 a.m. The flu, probably, the receptionist said. Going around the schools. Lucas texted his team that he'd be late, raced through the appointment, confirmed flu, prescribed rest and fluids, settled Emma on the couch with juice and cartoons, then stared at his phone. Today was the final stakeholder presentation. Every executive would be there. Victoria was counting on him to present the timeline, the budget, the launch strategy. He'd prepared for weeks. Missing it would be disastrous. But Emma's hand was hot in his, her eyes glassy with fever, and there was no one else. No family nearby. No backup. Just him. Lucas called Victoria's assistant. I need to speak with her. It's urgent. 2 minutes later, Victoria called. What's happening? My daughter has the flu, high fever. I can't leave her. The words came out flat, defeated. I'm going to miss the presentation. Silence on the other end. Lucas braced himself. This was it. The moment he'd been dreading. The proof that he couldn't do both, couldn't be the father Emma needed and the director Victoria required. Is she okay? Victoria asked. She will be, but she needs me today. Of course she does. Victoria's voice was calm, decisive. Here's what's going to happen. I'm presenting in your place. Email me your slides and notes. I'll handle the executives. Victoria, And Lucas? Stop apologizing. Your daughter is sick. That takes priority. Always. But the project...
We'll be fine. We're a team. That means sometimes we cover for each other. Today I'm covering for you. Tomorrow, maybe you'll do the same for me. A pause. Take care of Emma. I'll call you later with an update. The line went dead. Lucas sat on the couch, Emma's head on his lap, and felt something crack open inside him. Some protective shell he'd built around his emotions to survive the past 2 years. Victoria could have been furious. She had every right to be. This was the most important meeting of the quarter, and he'd abandoned her. Instead, she'd taken the burden without hesitation. Instead, she'd reminded him that being a parent wasn't a weakness. Instead, she'd shown him a kind of leadership he'd never experienced before, one that recognized people were human, fragile, capable of breaking, and deserving of compassion. Emma stirred. Daddy, I don't feel good. I know, sweetheart. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
And for the first time since Sarah died, that promise felt true.
Emma's fever broke on the third day, leaving her pale and tired but insisting she could go back to school.
Lucas kept her home one more day to be safe, working from his laptop while she colored at the kitchen table, her energy returning in small bursts. Victoria had called that first evening, after the presentation, her voice carrying a satisfaction that made Lucas's chest tight. They approved everything, she'd said. Full budget, extended timeline for quality assurance, additional marketing support. The CFO actually called it impressive. That's incredible. You did the work, Lucas. I just read your slides. A pause. How's Emma? Sleeping, finally. The fever's down to 100. Good. Take tomorrow off too. She'll need you. Victoria, I can't keep... Yes, you can, and you will. Her tone left no room for argument. I'll see you Friday. Now it was Friday, and Lucas stood outside Victoria's office, Emma's thank you card in his hand. His daughter had insisted on making it, construction paper covered in glitter and crayon drawings of stick figures she'd labeled Daddy's Nice Boss. He knocked. Come in. Victoria was at her desk, reading something on her tablet, her hair pulled back, glasses perched on her nose. She looked up, and something in her expression softened when she saw him. Lucas, welcome back. How's our patient? Much better. Back to terrorizing her classmates. He held out the card. She wanted me to give you this. Victoria took it, opened it carefully. Her lips curved into a genuine smile as she read Emma's careful block letters. Thank you for letting my daddy stay home. This is lovely, Victoria said quietly. Tell her I said thank you. I will. Lucas cleared his throat. And I wanted to say what you did, covering the presentation, giving me that time. It meant everything. Victoria set the card on her desk, her fingers lingering on it. I meant what I said. Family comes first, always. There was something in the way she said it, a weight that suggested personal experience, old wounds. Lucas wanted to ask, but didn't. The boundary between professional and personal felt gossamer thin in this moment, easily crossed, but dangerous. The launch is set for November 15th, Victoria continued, sliding back into business mode. 2 weeks. We're in good shape, but I want daily check-ins between now and then. Can you handle that? Absolutely. And Lucas, no more 70-hour weeks. I mean it. You're no good to me burned out. Yes, ma'am. She gave him a look. Stop calling me ma'am. It makes me feel ancient. What should I call you? Victoria is fine. We're past formalities, don't you think? The shift felt significant, like stepping across a threshold. Victoria, then. Better. She returned her attention to the tablet, and Lucas recognized the dismissal. But as he reached the door, she spoke again. Lucas? He turned. I'm glad Emma's feeling better. Something in her eyes, a flicker of vulnerability, quickly shuddered, made Lucas wonder what losses she'd survived, what private grief she carried behind the polished executive facade. Thank you, he said, for everything. Victoria nodded once, and Lucas left, the thank you card still visible on her desk, a bright spot of color in the austere office. The next 2 weeks blurred into a controlled sprint toward launch day. Lucas's team worked with focused intensity, every detail checked and rechecked, every contingency planned for. The daily check-ins with Victoria became a rhythm, 30 minutes each morning, reviewing progress, troubleshooting obstacles, strategizing adjustments. Lucas began to understand how she thought, how she approached problems. She was relentlessly logical, but not cold, demanding but fair, and she had a gift for cutting through complexity to find the essential question that needed answering. What's the real problem here? She'd ask when someone brought her a tangled situation. Not the symptoms, the actual problem. It forced everyone to think harder, dig deeper, be more honest. Lucas found himself adopting the technique with his own team, and the results were immediate: clearer communication, faster decisions, better outcomes. He also noticed things about Victoria that had nothing to do with work. The way she rubbed her left temple when she was stressed, how she took her coffee black in the morning but with cream in the afternoon, that she stayed late every night, her office light visible from the street when Lucas left at 7. She was lonely, he realized, surrounded by people all day, but alone in the ways that mattered. He recognized it because he lived it too. On November 10th, 5 days before launch, Lucas was reviewing final marketing materials when his phone rang. Emma's school. His heart stopped. "This is Lucas Reed." "Mr. Reed, this is Principal Morrison. Emma's fine, but there's been an incident on the playground. Another student pushed her, and she hit her head. The nurse has checked her, no signs of concussion, just a bump and a scrape, but we need you to pick her up." Lucas was already grabbing his keys. "I'm on my way." He stopped by Victoria's office, caught her between meetings. "Emma's hurt. School called. I have to go." Victoria stood immediately. "How bad?" "They said minor, but..." "Go. Keep me updated." Lucas drove faster than he should have, his mind conjuring worst-case scenarios. By the time he reached the school, his hands were shaking. Emma was in the nurse's office, holding an ice pack to her forehead, tear-streaked but alert. Relief nearly buckled his knees. "Hey, sweetheart." He knelt beside her chair. "Let me see." The nurse lifted the ice pack. A purple bruise was already forming above Emma's right eyebrow, and there was a small cut, cleaned and bandaged. "She's okay," the nurse assured him. "No signs of head trauma, but monitor her tonight. Any dizziness, nausea, excessive sleepiness, bring her to the ER." "I will, thank you." Lucas helped Emma gather her backpack. "Come on, kiddo, let's get you home." In the car, Emma was quiet, her usual chatter app absent. Lucas glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Want to tell me what happened?" "Marcus said my drawing was stupid. I said his face was stupid. He pushed me." Her voice was small. "I didn't mean to fall." "Marcus shouldn't have pushed you. That's not okay." "I know. Principal Morrison talked to him." Lucas pulled into their building's parking lot, killed the engine. "Are you mad at me for saying his face was stupid?" Emma's eyes filled with fresh tears. "I just wanted him to stop being mean." "I know, baby. I know." He unbuckled her, lifted her out of the car seat, held her while she cried. "You're okay. I've got you." Inside the apartment, he settled Emma on the couch with juice and crackers, checked her pupils like the nurse had shown him, watched for any signs of trouble. She seemed fine, just tired and shaken. His phone buzzed. "Victoria." "How is she?" "Bruised but okay, no concussion." "Thank goodness." A pause. "Do you need anything?" The question surprised him. "No, we're fine. Thank you for asking. Take the weekend. Don't even think about work." "Victoria, the launch is in 5 days. And we're ready. Your team knows what to do. I'll be here if anything explodes." Her voice gentled. "Take care of your daughter, Lucas. That's more important than any product launch." Lucas looked at Emma, who was fighting sleep, her small body curled into the couch cushions. "Okay. Thank you. Call me if you need anything. And I mean anything. I don't care what time." After they hung up, Lucas sat with Emma until she dozed off, then moved to the kitchen and opened his laptop. He couldn't help himself. He needed to review the launch checklist one more time, make sure everything was aligned. But his mind kept drifting back to Victoria's voice, the genuine concern, the way she told him to take the weekend without hesitation. Most bosses would have pressured him to work through it, especially this close to a major deadline. She wasn't most bosses. That night, after Emma was asleep in her bed, the bruise on her forehead a dark reminder of how quickly things could go wrong, Lucas found himself texting Victoria. "Thank you for today, for understanding." Her reply came quickly. "Stop thanking me. I'm just doing what any decent human would do. Not in my experience." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then you've worked for the wrong people." Lucas stared at the screen, considering his next words carefully. "I'm glad I work for you." The response took longer this time. "I'm glad you're here too, Lucas. Get some rest." He set down the phone and exhaled slowly. Something was shifting between them, something that went beyond professional respect. He could feel it in the pauses during their morning meetings, in the way she remembered small details about Emma, and how easily they'd fallen into a rhythm of understanding each other's unspoken thoughts. It should have worried him. Instead, it felt like relief. The weekend passed quietly. Emma recovered her energy, the bruise fading from purple to yellow-green. Lucas kept her close, baking cookies together on Saturday, watching movies on Sunday, storing up these ordinary moments against the chaos of launch week. Monday arrived with the weight of final preparations. Lucas returned to the office energized, his team ready, every detail locked in. The daily check-in with Victoria had a different quality now, less formal, more collaborative, two people who trusted each other completely working toward a shared goal. Marketing confirmed the press releases go out Wednesday, Lucas reported. Distribution has confirmed delivery to all major retailers by Thursday. Customer service is briefed and ready for inquiries Friday morning. Victoria nodded, making notes. And the website? Live Thursday at midnight. Tech team will monitor through the night. Good. She looked up. How's Emma's head? Back to normal. She's already planning her next playground argument. Victoria smiled. Strong personality. I like it. She gets it from her mother. The words slipped out before Lucas could stop them, and the air in the office changed. He rarely mentioned Sarah at work, had carefully compartmentalized his grief to maintain professionalism. But Victoria's expression didn't show pity or awkwardness, just quiet understanding. She must have been remarkable, Victoria said softly. She was. Emma's lucky. She has a father who shows up, who fights for her, who puts her first. Victoria set down her pen. That's more than a lot of kids get. Something in the way she said it made Lucas ask, Do you have children? No. Victoria's gaze drifted to the window. I was married once, long time ago. We talked about kids, but the timing was never right. Then the marriage ended and... She shrugged. Life had other plans. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me what I needed to know about myself. She returned her focus to him. Some people are meant to build families, others are meant to build companies. I made my choice. Do you regret it? Victoria considered the question. Sometimes. Late at night, when the office is empty and I'm the only one left. But regret is useless. We make decisions with the information we have at the time. All we can do is move forward. Lucas understood that philosophy intimately. How many times had he wondered if he'd missed signs of Sarah's heart condition, if he could have prevented the sudden cardiac arrest that took her while he was at work, and Emma was at daycare? The guilt had nearly destroyed him in those first months. Moving forward is harder than it sounds, he said. Yes, but you've done it. That's worth recognizing. Their eyes met, and Lucas felt that pull again. The magnetic draw of shared understanding, of two people who'd survived their own private wars and recognized the battle scars in each other. Victoria broke the moment first, standing abruptly. We should get back to work. Wednesday's going to be intense. Right, of course. As Lucas left her office, he glanced back and caught her watching him, her expression unguarded for just a second. Then she turned away and the wall came back up. Wednesday dawned gray and cold, weather matching Lucas's nerves. The press releases went out at 9 a.m. sharp, and by noon, media coverage was rolling in. Tech blogs, business journals, industry publications. Everyone was talking about the launch. Lucas monitored social media sentiment, tracked website traffic, coordinated with the marketing team as inquiries flooded in. His phone didn't stop ringing. His email exploded. The energy in the office was electric. At 4 p.m., Victoria called an impromptu team meeting. I want to acknowledge what you've all accomplished, she said, standing at the head of the conference table. 3 months ago, this project was in crisis. Today, we're getting coverage in Forbes, Bloomberg, and the Wall Street Journal. That's because every person in this room refused to accept failure. She looked directly at Lucas, especially our director, who took on a disaster and turned it into a success through sheer determination and exceptional leadership. The room applauded. Lucas felt heat creep up his neck. Tomorrow's the official launch, Victoria continued. Get some rest tonight. We'll need everything we have to manage the response. But for now, well done. All of you. As the meeting broke up, Victoria caught Lucas's arm. My office, 5 minutes. He found her pouring 2 glasses of scotch from a crystal decanter on her sidebar. I don't usually drink at work, she said, handing him a glass. But today deserves an exception. What are we drinking to? Survival? Success? Take your pick. They clinked glasses. The scotch was smooth and expensive, warming Lucas's throat. I meant what I said in there, Victoria told him. You exceeded every expectation. I had help. You covered for me when I needed it. That's what partners do. Partners. The word hung between them, weighted with meaning beyond professional collaboration. Lucas set down his glass. Can I ask you something? Always. Why did you really hire me? The truth. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Because I saw myself in you. 10 years ago, when everything fell apart and I had to rebuild from nothing. I saw that same exhaustion, that same determination not to quit even when quitting would be easier. She paused. I hired you because I knew exactly what you were capable of, even if you'd forgotten. I'm grateful for the opportunity, for your trust. You earned it. Victoria picked up her glass again, took a slow sip. Can I ask you something now? Of course. Are you happy, Lucas? Really happy? The question caught him off guard. I don't know. I haven't thought about happiness in a long time. I think about survival, stability, being enough for Emma. That's not the same thing. No. But it's what I have. Victoria nodded slowly. I understand that. Better than you might think. They stood in the quiet office, city lights beginning to glow outside as evening approached. Two people who'd learned to carry impossible weight, sharing a moment of something that felt dangerously close to connection. Lucas's phone buzzed. Emma's after-school program, confirming pickup time. I should go, he said reluctantly. Of course. Give Emma my best. At the door, Lucas turned back. Victoria? Yes? Thank you for seeing me, for believing I was worth the risk. Her smile was soft, almost sad. You were never a risk, Lucas. You were exactly what I needed. The launch day itself was organized chaos. Lucas arrived at 6 a.m. to find Victoria already there, coordinating with the tech team as the website went live. By 8, the first sales were rolling in. By 9, they'd hit their first day target. By noon, they'd doubled it. The executive team gathered in the boardroom, watching numbers climb, fielding calls from distributors requesting additional inventory, monitoring social media as influencers and early adopters shared reviews. This is extraordinary, the CFO kept saying. Absolutely extraordinary. Lucas caught Victoria's eye across the room. She gave him a subtle nod. Acknowledgement, pride, shared victory. By 5 p.m., exhaustion was setting in, but the adrenaline kept everyone moving. Lucas had been running on coffee and sheer willpower for hours when his phone rang. Emma's school. Again. His stomach dropped. Lucas Reed. Mr. Reed, I'm so sorry to bother you, but Emma's not feeling well. She's in the nurse's office. Can you come get her? What's wrong? She says her stomach hurts, and she's been crying. The nurse thinks it might be anxiety. Has anything stressful happened recently? Lucas closed his eyes. The incident on the playground. The long hours he'd been working. The tension she must have picked up on, even though he'd tried to hide it. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He found Victoria in her office, pulled her aside. Emma's sick. I have to leave. Go, don't even think twice. It's launch day, and the launch is a success. We've got this. Emma needs you more than we do right now. Lucas wanted to argue, to insist he could handle both. But the truth was, he couldn't. Not today. Not with Emma scared and hurting. Thank you, he managed. Victoria touched his arm briefly. Keep me posted. And Lucas, take tomorrow off too. I mean it. Emma was curled in a ball on the nurse's cot, her face blotchy from crying. Lucas's heart cracked. Hey, sweetheart. I'm here. She launched herself into his arms. My tummy hurts. I know. Let's get you home. In the car, Emma was quiet until they were almost to the apartment. Then, in a small voice, Are you mad at me? What? No, baby. Why would I be mad? Because you had to leave work. Because I keep getting sick and hurt, and you have to come get me. Lucas pulled over, turned to face her. Emma, listen to me. You are the most important thing in my life, always. Work is just work. You are everything. Do you understand? But you work so hard, because I want to give you a good life, but none of it matters if you're not okay. He unbuckled, climbed into the back seat, pulled her close. You never have to apologize for needing me. Never. Emma sobbed into his shirt while Lucas held her, rocking slightly, whispering reassurances. His phone buzzed repeatedly. Work updates, probably, the launch continuing without him. But he ignored it. This was where he needed to be. At home, he made Emma soup and crackers, put on her favorite movie, sat with her until she fell asleep on the couch. Only then did he check his phone. Dozens of messages, updates from his team, congratulations from colleagues, sales reports showing continued strong performance, and one text from Victoria. How is she? Lucas typed back. Anxious, stressed. My fault for working too much. It's not your fault. Kids pick up on everything. Is she okay now? Sleeping. Good. Stay home tomorrow. I'll send Rachel to cover your morning meetings. Victoria, I can't keep... Yes, you can. Stop arguing. Your daughter needs you present, not distracted. We'll survive without you for a day. Lucas stared at the exchange, throat tight. No boss he'd ever had would have been this understanding, this insistent that he prioritize his child. Thank you. For everything. Stop thanking me and go hug your kid. Despite everything, Lucas smiled. The next morning, Emma woke up feeling better but clingy. Lucas let her stay home from school, and they spent the day together, breakfast in pajamas, building a blanket fort, reading books, talking about feelings and fears, and how it was okay to be scared sometimes. I miss Mommy, Emma said at one point, her voice matter-of-fact but sad. I know, I do too. Do you think she'd be proud of you? At your new job? Lucas blinked back tears. I hope so. I think she would. You work really hard, and your boss is nice. She is. Maybe we could meet her sometime. Like, not at work. Like friends. The suggestion surprised him. Maybe, if she wanted to. I think she'd like me. I'm pretty great. Lucas laughed, ruffled her hair. You're the greatest. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Lucas sat at his laptop and drafted an email to Victoria, then deleted it. Started over, deleted again. What he wanted to say felt too personal, too vulnerable, but she'd been so incredibly kind, so understanding, and he needed to acknowledge it properly. Finally, he settled on, Thank you for giving me space to be a father. It means more than I can express. Her reply came an hour later. You don't have to choose between being a good father and a good director. The right workplace makes room for both. I'm trying to build that here. You're succeeding. Good. Now stop working and get some sleep. Monday's going to be busy. We have to manage the post-launch response. Yes, boss. Better. Good night, Lucas. Good night, Victoria. He closed the laptop and sat in the quiet apartment, thinking about how far he'd come in 4 months. From desperate and broken to employed and stable. From surviving to almost living again. And Victoria had been there for every step, pushing him to be better while giving him grace when he stumbled. She was more than a boss now. She was becoming something he didn't have words for yet. Someone who understood the cost of starting over, who recognized the courage it took to keep moving forward when everything inside screamed to give up. Someone who saw him completely and chose to stand beside him anyway. It should have terrified him, this growing connection. Instead, it felt like the first deep breath he'd taken in years. Monday brought winter's first real cold snap, the kind that made the city feel sharper, more defined. Lucas arrived at the office to find his team already celebrating. Weekend sales had exceeded projections by 40%, and industry analysts were calling the launch one of the year's biggest success stories. You're a hero, bud, Rachel told him, grinning. The CFO wants to shake your hand. Marketing wants you on a podcast. HR is already getting resumes from people who want to work on your team. Lucas absorbed the praise with quiet gratitude, but his mind was elsewhere. He'd spent the weekend thinking about Victoria's words, about not having to choose, about building a workplace that made room for whole human beings instead of demanding they fragment themselves into acceptable pieces. He knocked on her office door at 9 sharp for their daily check-in. Come in. Victoria was on the phone, but she gestured him to sit. He listened to her handle what sounded like a difficult vendor negotiation with calm authority, never raising her voice but making her position absolutely clear. When she hung up, she looked tired. Long weekend? Lucas asked. 73 emails, 12 phone calls, and a board member who wanted to discuss Q1 strategy at 10 p.m. on Saturday. She rubbed her temple. I'm glad one of us got rest. Emma's better, thank you for asking. Good. Victoria opened her laptop. Let's talk about post-launch strategy. We need to capitalize on this momentum. They spent an hour mapping out next steps, identifying opportunities, planning for scale. The conversation flowed easily, ideas building on each other, the kind of collaboration that felt less like work and more like creation. When they finished, Victoria closed her laptop and looked at him directly. I want to talk about something else. Your role here. Lucas's stomach tightened. Is something wrong? The opposite. You've proven yourself in 4 months. The team respects you, the executives trust you, and you delivered a major win under impossible circumstances. She paused. I want to promote you to Senior Director of Strategic Operations. Larger team, broader scope, seat at the executive table. The offer should have thrilled him. Instead, Lucas felt a wave of anxiety. That's incredibly generous, he said carefully. But I need to be honest with you. More responsibility means more hours, more travel, more demands. I'm barely managing the balance as it is. I know, that's why we're restructuring the position. You'll have 2 assistant directors reporting to you, one for domestic operations, one for international. Your job becomes strategy and leadership, not execution. Delegate the grinding hours to people who don't have a 6-year-old at home. Lucas stared at her. You designed this around my limitations. I designed it around your strengths and your reality. There's a difference. But Victoria leaned forward. I told you I'm trying to build a different kind of workplace. That means recognizing that talented people have complex lives. It means creating structures that support them instead of breaking them. Why? The question came out more raw than Lucas intended. Why go to this effort for me? Victoria was quiet for a moment, her gaze drifting to the window. When she spoke, her voice was softer. Because 10 years ago, when my marriage was falling apart and I was working 80-hour weeks trying to prove myself, my boss told me I had to choose, career or personal life, all in or all out. So I chose career, and I lost everything else. She looked back at him. I swore that if I ever had the power to change that equation, I would. You're giving me the chance. The vulnerability in her admission took Lucas's breath away. This wasn't just professional mentorship. This was personal, intentional, a woman rewriting her own painful history through the choices she made for someone else. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Take the promotion. Lead the team the way you've been leading, with integrity and humanity. Show everyone else here that it's possible to be excellent without sacrificing everything that matters. Lucas felt something shift in his chest, like a door opening onto a future he hadn't dared imagine. Yes, thank you. I accept. Victoria smiled, and it transformed her face, made her look younger, lighter, almost happy. Good. We'll announce it Wednesday. HR will handle the paperwork. Your salary increases 25%, and you get equity in the company. Victoria, you earned it, Lucas. Stop questioning whether you deserve good things. After he left her office, Lucas walked through the building in a daze. Senior director, executive meetings, real financial security for Emma, the ability to delegate the crushing workload to people who could handle it. It felt like resurrection. That evening, he picked up Emma from school and took her to their favorite diner, the one with the red vinyl booths and the waitress who always remembered Emma liked extra whipped cream on her hot chocolate. Guess what? He said as they settled into their booth. What? I got a promotion at work. That means more money, which means we can do more fun things together. Emma's eyes went wide. Like what? Like maybe we get a bigger apartment. One with your own room, not just a corner of mine. Maybe we take a real vacation next summer. Beach, theme park, whatever you want. Really? Really? Emma launched herself across the booth to hug him, and Lucas held on tight, feeling the weight of the past 2 years finally beginning to lift. When they got home, Emma insisted on calling her grandmother, Sarah's mother, who lived 3 states away and visited when she could, to share the news. Daddy got promoted, Emma announced into the phone. He has a really nice boss who lets him come home when I'm sick. Lucas listened to Emma chatter, describing Victoria in terms only a 6-year-old could manage. She's pretty and smart, and Daddy says she's fair, which I think means she's nice but also kind of strict, and felt a strange mix of pride and discomfort. When Emma handed him the phone, Sarah's mother's voice was warm. "I'm so happy for you, Lucas. You've worked so hard to get back on your feet." "Thank you, Margaret. It's been a journey." Emma sounds happy. That's what matters most. She is. We both are. Finally. After they hung up, Lucas helped Emma with her homework, made dinner, supervised bath time, read 2 chapters of the book they were working through together. The evening routine that had once felt like an exhausting checklist now felt almost comfortable, a rhythm he'd learned to move within instead of against. As he tucked Emma in, she looked up at him with serious eyes. "Daddy, can I meet your boss sometime? For real?" "Why do you want to meet her?" "Because she makes you smile. You didn't smile much before." The observation pierced him. "I smile." "Not like now. Now you smile like you did in the pictures with Mommy." Lucas swallowed hard. "Victoria's very busy, sweetheart. She might not have time." "Just ask." "Please?" "Okay, I'll ask." "Promise?" "Promise." Emma settled into her pillow, satisfied, while Lucas sat in the growing dark and wondered what he was getting himself into. Meeting outside work felt like crossing a line, making concrete something that had been safely abstract. But he'd promised Emma, and he found, to his surprise, that he wanted it too. The promotion announcement Wednesday morning generated immediate attention. Congratulations flooded Lucas's inbox. His team threw an impromptu celebration with cake from the cafeteria. The executives welcomed him to Thursday's leadership meeting with genuine warmth. But there was also whisper and speculation, the kind that follows any rapid rise. Lucas heard fragments in the break room, saw curious glances, felt the weight of scrutiny from people wondering how he'd climb so fast. "Ignore it," Rachel advised at lunch. "Success always breeds gossip. You earned this." "I know, but it's uncomfortable." "Welcome to leadership. Everything you do gets analyzed now." That evening, Lucas worked late finalizing the transition plan for his expanded role. Most people had left by 7, the office quiet except for the hum of climate control and the distant ping of elevator bells. He was deep in spreadsheets when Victoria appeared in his doorway. "You're still here." Lucas looked up. "Lucas, could say the same about you." "I practically live here." She leaned against the doorframe. "But you have a daughter waiting." "She's with the neighbor tonight. I hired a babysitter for late nights, part of the new budget." "Smart." Victoria hesitated, then entered his office, closed the door behind her. "Can we talk? Off the record?" Lucas's pulse quickened. "Of course." Victoria sat across from him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked uncertain. "There's talk. About your promotion. About us. I've heard some. People are speculating that there's something inappropriate happening, that I promoted you for reasons beyond merit." She met his eyes. "I need you to know that's absolutely not true. You earned this position. Your work speaks for itself." "I know that, but perception matters, especially in a corporate environment, especially for you as you step into executive leadership." Victoria's fingers drummed on the armrest. "I want to be transparent about something. I value our working relationship immensely. I respect you, I trust you, and I believe you're going to do exceptional things here. But I'm also aware that we've developed a personal rapport that goes beyond typical manager-employee dynamics." Lucas's throat was dry. "Yes, I don't regret that, but I need to be careful, for your career, for mine, for the integrity of this company. So I'm going to be more conscious about boundaries going forward, more formal in public settings. I don't want anyone to have ammunition to undermine what you've accomplished." The words made sense professionally, but they stung emotionally. Lucas had come to rely on those moments of connection, the sense that someone truly understood him. "I understand," he said. "Do you? Because you look upset." "I'm not upset. I'm just—" Lucas struggled for words. "You've been more than a boss to me. You've been a friend when I didn't realize how much I needed one. Pulling back feels like losing something important." Victoria's expression softened. "I'm not pulling back as a person, Lucas. I'm just being more careful about appearances. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Because it feels like you're creating distance." "Would you rather I didn't? Would you rather we ignore the talk and let people think whatever they want? Lucas stood, moved to the window, stared out at the city lights. I don't know what I want. 3 months ago, I was barely surviving. Now I have a career, financial security, a future. All because you took a chance on me. I'm grateful for that. But somewhere along the way, this became more complicated. Complicated how? He turned to face her. You know how. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truth. Victoria stood slowly. Lucas, I can't. We can't. I know. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just being honest. Honesty is dangerous. So is pretending. Victoria moved closer, and Lucas could see the conflict in her eyes. Professional caution warring with something rawer, more human. If circumstances were different, if we'd met somewhere else in some other context, but we didn't. No, we didn't. She stopped a few feet away. So we have to be smart about this. We have to maintain appropriate boundaries. For both our sakes. What if I don't want boundaries? Then you're not thinking clearly. Victoria's voice turned firm. I won't be the reason your reputation gets destroyed. I won't be the scandal that undermines everything you've worked for. You have a daughter who depends on you, a career that's just beginning. I won't let you throw that away for something that could never work. Why couldn't it work? Because I'm your boss, Lucas. Because there's a power dynamic that makes anything between us ethically complicated at best, deeply problematic at worst. Because I've seen what happens when people mix professional and personal relationships, and it never ends well. Lucas absorbed her words, recognizing their truth even as he resisted them. So what do? We go back to being professional, respectful, appropriate. Victoria's voice softened slightly. And we protect what we've built here. Both the working relationship and the friendship, but we do it carefully. And if that's not enough, it has to be enough. Victoria left his office, her footsteps fading down the hallway, leaving Lucas alone with the city lights and the ache of wanting something he couldn't have. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in careful distance. Victoria maintained professional courtesy in all their interactions, but the warmth was banked, controlled. Their daily check-ins became crisper, more focused on business. She stopped asking about Emma unless directly relevant. The easy rapport they'd built felt suddenly fragile, as if one wrong word might shatter it completely. Lucas threw himself into his new role, managing the transition, building relationships with the assistant directors, attending executive meetings where he was the youngest person in the room by a decade. The work was challenging and engaging, everything he'd hoped for professionally. But he missed Victoria. The real Victoria, not the careful professional version she presented now. Emma noticed, too. You don't talk about your boss anymore, she observed one evening. We're both busy. Did you ask her if we could meet? Lucas had been avoiding that promise. Not yet, sweetheart. You said you would. I know, I will. But the thought of asking Victoria to spend personal time with him felt impossible now, like requesting something he'd already been told he couldn't have. December arrived with early darkness and holiday decorations appearing throughout the office. The company announced its annual winter party, a formal dinner at a downtown hotel, attendance expected from all executive staff. Lucas hadn't been to anything like it in years. The idea of putting on a suit, making small talk, navigating social dynamics felt exhausting, but refusing wasn't an option, not in his new position. You should bring someone, Rachel suggested when the invitation arrived. It's more fun with a date. I don't have anyone to bring. What about that woman from Emma's school you mentioned, the one who helped with the fall festival? Lucas had gone on exactly 2 coffee dates with Andrea, a single mother he'd met at pickup. They'd been pleasant but lacked any real spark. He'd stopped pursuing it after the second one, and she'd seemed relieved. We're not seeing each other. Well, you should find someone. These events are awkward enough without being solo. The night of the party, Lucas dropped Emma at Margaret's house. She'd flown in for a long weekend visit and drove to the hotel feeling underdressed despite his best suit. The ballroom was elegant, hundreds of people already mingling, servers circulating with champagne. Lucas grabbed a glass and tried to look comfortable. He made conversation with James from operations, exchanged pleasantries with the CFO's wife, discussed market trends with a director from the finance division. Then Victoria arrived. She wore a black dress that was simultaneously understated and stunning, her hair down for once, diamond earrings catching the light. Several heads turned as she entered, and Lucas understood viscerally why she maintained such careful professional boundaries. In this setting, away from the office's fluorescent lighting and glass walls, she was magnetic in a way that made his carefully maintained distance feel impossible. Their eyes met across the room. Victoria's expression flickered, surprise, maybe, or recognition, before settling back into professional neutrality. She was with someone, Lucas realized, a man in an expensive suit, her hand resting lightly on his arm as they moved through the crowd. Jealousy hit Lucas like a physical blow. He had no right to it, no claim on her, but the feeling was undeniable. Rachel appeared at his elbow. "That's Graham Westfield, venture capitalist. They've been seeing each other on and off for a year, according to office gossip." "I didn't know Victoria dated." "She doesn't, much, but Graham's in her league, successful, sophisticated, no complications." Rachel studied Lucas's face. "You okay?" "Fine." "Why wouldn't I be?" "No reason?" But Rachel's knowing look suggested she saw more than Lucas wanted to reveal. Dinner was assigned seating. Lucas found himself at a table with other directors and their spouses, making polite conversation about children and vacation plans and the company's strong fourth quarter. Victoria sat 3 tables away with the senior executives, Graham beside her, the two of them looking like they belonged in a magazine spread about power couples. Lucas drank more champagne than he should have, trying to dull the sharp edge of watching Victoria smile at someone else, seeing her relaxed and laughing in a way she never was at the office anymore. After dinner came dancing. Lucas was contemplating an early exit when the CFO's wife asked him to dance, and refusing would have been rude. He made it through one song, then escaped to the balcony for air. The December cold was bracing after the overheated ballroom. Lucas leaned against the railing, breathing out visible clouds, trying to organize his thoughts into something rational. Hiding? He turned. Victoria stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. "Taking a break," Lucas said. "Smart. It's overwhelming in there." She joined him at the railing. "You look miserable." "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar." Victoria studied the city skyline. "Graham noticed, asked if you were all right." "What did you tell him?" "That you'd recently lost your wife and these events are probably difficult." Lucas laughed bitterly. "Did you tell him that's not why I look miserable?" "Lucas, forget it. You're right to keep boundaries. I'm being inappropriate." "You're being human." Victoria's voice was quiet. "And I'm sorry. I know this is hard. It's hard for me too." "You have Graham." "Graham is uncomplicated, safe. Exactly what I need right now." "Do you love him?" Victoria was silent for so long Lucas thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "No, but I respect him, enjoy his company, and he doesn't make me question every professional decision I've made in the past 6 months." "Is that what I do?" "Yes." She finally looked at him. "You make me want things I can't have. Things I gave up on years ago, and that's terrifying." Lucas's heart hammered. "What things?" "Partnership. Real partnership. Not the transactional kind, but the kind where someone actually sees you, understands the cost of the choices you've made, shares the weight instead of adding to it." Victoria's eyes glistened. "You and Emma, what you've built together, the way you show up for her every single day. It's beautiful. And it makes me ache for something I convinced myself I didn't need." "Victoria, but wanting it doesn't make it possible. I'm still your boss. You're still rebuilding your life. The timing is wrong. The circumstance is impossible. And getting involved would destroy everything good we've created here." Lucas stepped closer. "What if I don't care?" "Then you're not thinking about Emma, about what happens if this goes wrong. If we try and fail, you lose your job, your income, your stability. She loses everything you've worked so hard to give her." Victoria's voice broke slightly. "I can't do that to you. I won't." "So we just, what? Pretend this doesn't exist?" "We acknowledge it exists and choose not to act on it. We maintain our professional relationship, protect our careers, and eventually these feelings will fade." "Will they?" Victoria didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and touched his face, one brief gentle gesture, her fingers cold against his skin. Go back inside, Lucas. Dance with someone appropriate. Enjoy the party. I'll see you Monday. She left him on the balcony, disappearing into the warmth and light of the ballroom, leaving Lucas alone with the night and the impossible weight of wanting someone he couldn't have. He stayed until propriety demanded, then left early, picking up Emma from Margaret's and driving home through streets dressed in holiday lights. Emma chattered about her evening with grandmother, cookies baked, movies watched, stories told, while Lucas tried to focus on her voice instead of the echo of Victoria's words. At home, after Emma was asleep, he sat in the dark living room and acknowledged a truth he'd been avoiding. He was falling for Victoria Hale. Maybe had already fallen, and nothing about that was simple or safe or remotely appropriate. But knowing he should walk away didn't make it any easier to actually do it. The Monday after the party arrived with freezing rain, the kind of weather that matched Lucas's mood perfectly. He walked into the office determined to follow Victoria's guidance, maintain distance, focus on work, let whatever this was between them fade into professional respect. It lasted exactly until their 9 o'clock meeting. Victoria looked tired, shadows under her eyes suggesting she'd slept as poorly as he had. They went through the agenda mechanically, Q1 projections, staffing decisions, budget allocations, but the air between them felt charged, heavy with everything they weren't saying. That's everything, Victoria said finally, closing her laptop. Unless you have questions. Lucas stood to leave, then stopped at the door. Can I ask you something personal? Lucas, are you happy? With Graham? With how things are? Are you actually happy? Victoria's jaw tightened. That's not a fair question. Why not? Because happiness isn't always the point. Security is. Stability. Not complicating things that work. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Victoria stood, moving to the window, her back to him. Go to work, Lucas. Lead your team. Do the job I promoted you to do. Stop asking questions that don't have good answers. Lucas left, frustration simmering beneath his skin. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and decisions, but his mind kept circling back to Victoria's face on that balcony, the moment she'd touched his cheek, the raw longing in her voice when she'd admitted what she wanted. That evening, Emma brought home a permission slip for a school field trip. Parent chaperones needed. Lucas signed without hesitation. Any chance to be present in her life he'd take. Will you really come? Emma asked, watching him sign. Of course. When have I ever missed something I promised to do? You missed my fall concert. The words hit like a slap. Lucas set down the pen. What? In October, we sang songs about leaves. You said you'd come, but you had to work late. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact, not accusatory, which somehow made it worse. It's okay. Sarah's mom recorded it on her phone. Lucas pulled Emma into his lap, throat tight. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. You're right. I did miss it, and that wasn't okay. You were busy with the big project. That's not an excuse. I should have been there. Emma hugged him. It's okay, Daddy. You're here now. But Lucas couldn't shake the guilt. He'd been so focused on rebuilding their financial stability, proving himself at work, that he'd started slipping in the ways that actually mattered. The field trip was a chance to do better. The next morning, Lucas arrived early to find Victoria already in her office, lights on despite the pre-dawn darkness. He knocked, and she looked up, surprised. You're here early. Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd get a head start. Lucas hesitated. Can I tell you something? Always? He told her about Emma's field trip, about missing the concert, about the reminder that success meant nothing if he wasn't present for his daughter. Victoria listened without interrupting, her expression softening as he spoke. You're a good father, Lucas. Missing one concert doesn't change that. But it's the start of a pattern. I've seen it happen. People get promoted, start working longer hours, tell themselves it's temporary. Then they wake up one day and realize they've missed everything that mattered. So don't let that happen. Go on the field trip. Be there for Emma. Victoria paused. In fact, I'm making it an official policy. Any parent on your team who wants to chaperone school events gets the time off. No questions asked. You're serious? Completely. Draft the policy. I'll approve it. HR can implement it by next week. She met his eyes. You were right, about building a different kind of workplace. I want parents here to know they don't have to choose. Something in Lucas's chest loosened. Thank you. Stop thanking me and go write the policy. The week of Emma's field trip, crisis erupted on a different front. One of Lucas's assistant directors, Marcus, had been cutting corners on quality control, pushing products through testing before they were ready. A client complaint exposed the problem, threatening a major account. Lucas called Marcus into his office, the evidence laid out on his desk. Walk me through your decision-making here, Lucas said, keeping his voice level. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. The client was pressuring us for faster delivery. I thought we could handle minor issues post-launch. You thought wrong. We ship quality or we don't ship at all. That's non-negotiable. With respect, you're new to this role. You don't understand the pressure. I understand pressure perfectly. Lucas's voice hardened. I spent 2 years as a single father working 3 freelance jobs to keep the lights on. I know what pressure is. What I don't know is why you thought compromising our reputation was an acceptable response to it. Marcus's face flushed. I was trying to meet targets. By lying to clients and putting inferior products in their hands? That's not meeting targets. That's fraud. The word hung in the air between them. I want a full audit of every project you've overseen in the past 6 months, Lucas continued. Complete documentation of what was shipped versus what was promised. If we find more discrepancies, you're done here. Understood? Yes, sir. After Marcus left, Lucas sat in the quiet office and felt the weight of leadership settle more heavily on his shoulders. Making tough calls, holding people accountable, potentially ending someone's career. This was the part of management no one talked about. He called Victoria, gave her the summary. How do you want to handle it? She asked. Full audit, like I told him. If it's an isolated incident, severe warning and mandatory ethics training. If it's a pattern, termination. Agreed. I'll inform HR and legal. Good instincts, Lucas. It doesn't feel good. Leadership rarely does. But you're protecting the company and our clients. That's your job now. The audit took 3 days and revealed 2 other instances of Marcus cutting corners, both minor but disturbing in their pattern. Lucas made the call himself. Termination, effective immediately, with severance per company policy but no reference. Marcus took it badly, accused Lucas of making an example of him, claimed he was being targeted. Lucas listened to the anger and defended his decision calmly, then watched security escort Marcus from the building. Afterward, Victoria found him in his office, staring at nothing. First time firing someone? She asked. Yes. It never gets easier, but it was the right call. I know. Doesn't make it feel better. Victoria sat across from him. Want to know what would make it worse? Letting him stay? Sending the message that cutting corners is acceptable if you're under pressure. You'd lose the respect of everyone on your team. I just keep thinking about his family. He has 2 kids. And he made choices that put his employment at risk. That's on him, not you. Victoria's voice was firm but not unkind. You can feel bad about it. You should feel bad about it, but don't second-guess the decision. Lucas nodded slowly. Thank you. For what? For being here. For understanding that this is hard. Something shifted in Victoria's expression. Lucas, She stopped, seemed to reconsider. You're doing well. Better than most people in their first executive role. Don't forget that. She left before he could respond, but the moment lingered. Another crack in the careful distance she'd been maintaining. Friday arrived with Emma's field trip, and Lucas took the morning off as promised. The destination was a children's museum, chaotic and loud and exactly what Emma needed. Lucas supervised a group of 6-year-olds through exhibits on dinosaurs and space in ancient Egypt, answered endless questions, prevented one near disaster involving a mummy costume and a drinking fountain. Emma glowed the entire time, introducing him to her friends, holding his hand between exhibits, checking constantly that he was watching her. This is my daddy, she told another girl proudly. He's really important at his job, but he came anyway. Lucas's heart squeezed. Important. When had he started being important again? Not just surviving, but actually building something that mattered. On the bus ride back to school, Emma fell asleep against his shoulder, exhausted from the excitement. Lucas looked out the window at the city passing by and felt, for the first time in years, something like contentment. That evening, he texted Victoria. "Thank you for the policy. Today mattered." Her response came quickly. "I'm glad." "How was it?" "Perfect." Emma was so happy. "Good. That's what's important." Lucas stared at the exchange, the familiar ease of their communication, and made a decision. He typed, "She keeps asking to meet you. Would you ever want to have dinner? Nothing formal, just pizza with a 6-year-old and her grateful father." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Lucas held his breath. Finally, "Lucas, I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? It's just dinner. Nothing between us is just anything. You know that." "So we're supposed to pretend we're strangers outside the office? We're supposed to maintain appropriate boundaries. What if I don't want to?" The response took longer this time. "What you want and what's appropriate aren't always the same thing. I'm trying to protect both of us. What if you're wrong? What if being this careful is actually making everything harder? Lucas, please, don't push this." He set down the phone, frustration and longing warring in his chest. Every instinct told him Victoria felt the same pull he did, that her resistance came from fear rather than lack of interest. But forcing the issue felt wrong, disrespectful of the boundaries she'd clearly set. Still, the question lingered. How long could they maintain this careful distance before something broke? December deepened into true winter. The company held its annual strategic planning retreat, 2 days at a conference center upstate, all executives required to attend. Lucas arranged for Emma to stay with Margaret, who'd extended her visit through the holidays. The retreat was intensive, morning sessions on growth strategy followed by afternoon breakouts on operational planning. Lucas found himself in his element, contributing ideas, challenging assumptions, earning nods of approval from the senior leadership team. Victoria ran the sessions with commanding efficiency, but Lucas noticed the exhaustion in her shoulders, the way she rubbed her neck between presentations. On the second evening, after dinner, he found her alone in the conference center's business lounge, laptop open, working despite the late hour. "You're supposed to be networking," he said from the doorway. Victoria looked up. "So are you. I networked for 3 hours. My capacity for small talk is exhausted. Join the club." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Can't sleep?" "Too much coffee, too many ideas spinning in my head." Lucas sat. "What's your excuse?" "Board presentation next week, trying to get ahead of questions." "You run this company brilliantly. The board knows that." "The board wants continuous growth in a challenging market. Brilliance isn't enough." Victoria closed her laptop with a sigh. "Sorry, I'm cynical tonight." "What's wrong?" "Besides everything?" She laughed without humor. "Graham proposed last week." Lucas felt the floor drop away. "What?" "Showed up at my apartment with a ring, a speech about building a life together, the whole production." "What did you say?" "I said no." Victoria's voice was flat. "Told him I wasn't ready for that level of commitment, that I valued our relationship but couldn't see myself married again." "How did he take it?" "Badly. We're not seeing each other anymore." She met Lucas's eyes. "He accused me of being in love with someone else. I told him that was ridiculous. He didn't believe me." The air between them crackled with tension. "Was he right?" Lucas asked quietly. Victoria stood abruptly, walked to the window overlooking the dark grounds. "Don't ask me questions I can't answer. Can't or won't." "Both." She turned to face him. "Lucas, you have to understand, I'm 42 years old. I've built my entire adult life around this career. I've sacrificed relationships, possibilities, any semblance of work-life balance to get where I am. And I don't regret it. But I also know who I am. I'm not good at the things that make relationships work. I'm controlling, obsessive about work, emotionally closed off when it matters. Graham was safe because he didn't ask me to be different. He accepted the version of me that exists. And you think I wouldn't? I think you and Emma deserve someone who can actually be present, not someone who works 70-hour weeks and struggles with vulnerability and has spent a decade convincing herself she doesn't need connection." Lucas stood, crossed the space between them. "What if you're wrong about what I deserve?" "Then you're not thinking clearly. Or maybe I'm thinking more clearly than you are." He stopped a foot away from her.
You told me on that balcony that I make you want things you gave up on. What things, Victoria? Say it out loud. Lucas, say it. Her eyes glistened.
A partner. Someone who understands the weight of responsibility, who doesn't need me to be less than I am, but also doesn't let me hide behind work. Someone who sees past the executive persona to the person underneath. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Someone like you. Then why are we fighting this? Because you work for me. Because there are rules about power dynamics and appropriate workplace relationships. Because if this goes wrong, you lose everything you've rebuilt, and I'll have destroyed another person's life for my own selfish desires. What if it doesn't go wrong? We can't know that. We can't guarantee it. Lucas reached out slowly, giving her time to step back. When she didn't, he took her hand. When Sarah died, I thought I'd never feel anything again. Just numb survival, getting through days for Emma's sake. But you changed that. You saw me when I was broken, gave me a chance when no one else would, and somewhere along the way you became essential to my life in a way that has nothing to do with work. Lucas, we can't... I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just asking you to stop pretending you don't feel this too. Victoria's fingers tightened around his. What happens on Monday? How do we go back to the office and act like this conversation didn't happen? The same way we've been acting like our feelings don't exist for the past 6 weeks. Victoria pulled her hand back, but gently, not with rejection. I need time to think about what this means, what the consequences could be, how to handle it ethically. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. She nodded, then gathered her laptop and left the lounge without looking back. Lucas stood alone in the quiet room, heart racing, unsure whether he'd just made the best or worst decision of his life. The rest of the retreat passed in careful normalcy, but something fundamental had shifted. Victoria maintained professional distance in public, but their eyes met across conference rooms with new understanding. The pretense had cracked, and what lay beneath was both terrifying and inevitable. Back in the office the following week, Lucas threw himself into work, giving Victoria the space she'd asked for. He finalized the parent leave policy, restructured his team's workflow, handled a supplier crisis that threatened Q1 delivery schedules. The work was demanding enough to occupy his mind during business hours, but evenings alone with his thoughts were harder. Emma noticed his distraction. Are you sad, Daddy? Just thinking about work stuff, sweetheart. Is your boss still being nice? Yes? She's always nice. Then why do you look sad when you talk about her? Lucas marveled at his daughter's perception. Sometimes grown-up stuff is complicated. Like how I want to be best friends with Sophie, but she likes Emma M better? Kind of like that, yeah. Emma patted his hand. It'll work out. Things usually do. If only adult problems were that simple, Lucas thought. But he appreciated her optimism. On Thursday afternoon, Victoria's assistant called. She wants to see you at 5:30, her office. Lucas spent the intervening hours on edge, wondering what Victoria had decided. When he finally knocked on her door, she looked as nervous as he felt. Close the door, she said. Sit down. Lucas obeyed, pulse hammering. Victoria took a breath. I've spent the past week consulting with HR, with our legal team, and with my own conscience. I needed to understand the rules, the risks, and the right way to handle this situation if we decide to pursue it. And? Company policy prohibits romantic relationships between managers and direct reports. Period. No exceptions. Lucas's stomach dropped. So that's it. We can't. I'm not finished. Victoria leaned forward. Policy also allows for organizational restructuring to remove reporting conflicts of interest. If you were to report to someone else, say the COO instead of me, we would no longer have a direct reporting relationship. You'd restructure the entire org chart? I'd restructure whatever needs restructuring to do this right. If we're going to explore this possibility, we do it ethically, transparently, by the book. Lucas stared at her. You've really thought this through. I haven't stopped thinking about it since the retreat. Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. But I need to be clear about something. This changes everything. The stakes are enormous. If we try this and it fails, the fallout affects both our careers, your relationship with Emma, this entire company. I won't take that risk unless you're absolutely certain. I'm certain. Don't answer yet. Think about it over the weekend. Really think. Talk to Margaret if you trust her. Consider every angle. On Monday, if you still want to move forward, we'll meet with HR together and make this official. What about you? Are you certain? Victoria's expression softened. I've never been more terrified of anything in my life, but yes, I'm certain. Lucas left her office with his mind spinning, hope and anxiety warring for dominance. Friday and Saturday passed in a blur of Emma's activities and internal deliberation. He did talk to Margaret carefully, asking hypothetical questions about dating someone from work, about whether moving forward with his life meant betraying Sarah's memory. Lucas, Margaret said gently, Sarah would want you to be happy. She'd want Emma to see you living fully, not just existing. If this woman makes you feel alive again, if she treats you and Emma with respect, then you have my blessing. Sarah's too. Sunday evening, after Emma was in bed, Lucas sat with his phone and stared at the message he'd typed. I'm still certain. Monday works. He hesitated only a second before hitting send. Victoria's response came immediately. Me too. 9 a.m. HR conference room. We'll do this right. Lucas set down the phone and exhaled slowly. Tomorrow, everything would change. The careful distance would end. The possibility he'd barely dared imagine would become real. And for the first time since Sarah's death, the future felt like something to move toward instead of something to survive. Monday morning arrived with crystalline winter sunlight, the kind that made the city look clean and full of promise. Lucas dropped Emma at school early, her goodbye hug lasting a moment longer than usual as if she sensed something significant was happening. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, sweetheart. Have a good day. He arrived at the office 20 minutes before the meeting, too anxious to wait at home. Victoria was already in the HR conference room when he entered, sitting beside Jennifer Martinez, the head of human resources. Both women looked serious, but not hostile. Lucas, thanks for coming, Jennifer said, gesturing to a chair. Victoria has briefed me on the situation. I want to make sure we handle this properly, for everyone's protection. Lucas sat, suddenly aware of how real this was. Not a hypothetical conversation or a moment of vulnerability in an empty lounge, but an official meeting with documentation and policies and consequences. Walk me through what you're proposing, Jennifer continued. Victoria spoke first, her voice measured and professional. Lucas and I have developed personal feelings for each other that go beyond a professional relationship. We want to explore the possibility of dating, but we're both acutely aware of the company's policy against relationships between managers and direct reports. So you're here to ask for an exception to policy? No, we're here to restructure the reporting relationship so policy doesn't apply. Victoria slid a document across the table. I'm proposing that Lucas report directly to Richard Chen, our COO, effective immediately. This removes any conflict of interest while maintaining his executive position and responsibilities. Jennifer studied the document. Richard's agreed to this? I spoke with him Friday. He's supportive, pending HR approval. And you've considered how this looks? A CEO restructuring the organization to date an employee she promoted 6 weeks ago? The question hung heavy in the air. Lucas spoke up. I understand the optics are complicated, but I want to be clear. Victoria didn't promote me because of personal feelings. She promoted me because I earned it, because my work delivered results, because I was the right person for the role. The personal connection developed afterward, and we've been actively trying to maintain appropriate boundaries. Until you couldn't anymore, Jennifer said, not unkindly. Until we realized we were making ourselves miserable trying to deny something real, Victoria corrected. I won't apologize for having feelings, Jennifer, but I will ensure we handle those feelings ethically and transparently. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment, reading through the restructuring proposal. Finally, she set it down. I need to be honest with you both. This is messy. Even with the reporting change, people will talk. They'll question whether favoritism played a role in Lucas's promotion, whether Victoria's judgment is compromised, whether this sets a bad precedent. I know, Victoria said quietly, but policy allows for reorganization to address conflicts of interest, and what you're proposing is technically compliant. Jennifer looked at Lucas. I need to hear from you directly. Are you entering this relationship freely? Do you feel pressured in any way?
No, absolutely not. If anything, Victoria has been the one maintaining boundaries, protecting my career, making sure I understood the risks. And you're willing to accept those risks, the gossip, the scrutiny, the possibility that this could affect your professional reputation? Lucas thought of Emma, of the life he was building, of everything he stood to lose. Then he thought of Victoria's face on that balcony, the loneliness he recognized in her because he lived it too, the way she'd seen him completely and chosen to help him rise instead of keeping him dependent. Yes, I'm willing. Jennifer turned to Victoria. And you? You're willing to risk your professional reputation, potentially your position, for this relationship? I've spent 15 years building this career at the expense of everything else, Victoria said. I've been safe, careful, strategic about every decision, and I've been lonely in ways I didn't even recognize until Lucas walked into that interview. So yes, I'm willing to take this risk, because the alternative is spending the rest of my life wondering what I missed. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. All right, here's how this works. The reorganization goes into effect today. Lucas, you'll have a meeting with Richard this afternoon to discuss your new reporting structure. You'll both sign relationship disclosure forms acknowledging the personal connection and agreeing to maintain professionalism in the workplace. And you'll understand that if this relationship ends badly, the company's priority is protecting the business, not protecting either of you personally. Understood, they said in unison. One more thing. Jennifer looked at them seriously. I actually think you might have a shot at making this work. You're both adults, you're being transparent, and you're taking responsibility for the complications. But the moment this starts affecting work performance or creating hostile situations for other employees, we'll have to intervene. Clear? Crystal clear, Victoria said. Then let's make it official. The paperwork took an hour. Signatures, initials, acknowledgments of policy and procedure. When they finally left the conference room, Lucas felt simultaneously relieved and terrified. Victoria stopped him in the hallway. Are you okay? I just made our relationship official HR business. That's surreal. We can still stop this. If you're having second thoughts, I'm not. Lucas met her eyes. Are you? Terrified, yes. Second thoughts, no. She glanced around the empty corridor. We should probably keep physical distance at the office for a while. Let people adjust to the news. Agreed. So when do I actually get to take you on a proper date? Victoria smiled, and it transformed her face the way it always did. Is Friday too soon? Friday's perfect. They separated to their respective offices, but Lucas couldn't concentrate on work. The news would spread quickly. Reorganizations always did, and he needed to be prepared for the questions, the speculation, the judgment. Sure enough, by lunch the whispers had started. Lucas's team approached cautiously, asking about the reporting change, fishing for information. He kept his answers professional and brief, confirming the new structure without addressing the reasons behind it. Rachel was more direct. You're dating Victoria, aren't you? Lucas took a breath. We're going to start seeing each other outside work, yes. The company's aware and approved the reorganization to ensure there's no conflict of interest. Holy shit. I mean, congratulations? I think? Rachel studied his face. Are you happy about this or freaking out? Both. Fair enough. For what it's worth, I think she's good for you. You've been different since you started here. More confident, more yourself. If she's part of that, then people can gossip all they want. Thanks, Rachel. That means a lot. By the end of the day, Lucas was exhausted from managing reactions and maintaining composure. He picked up Emma from school, and her cheerful chatter about her day was a welcome relief from office politics. Guess what? Lucas said as they drove home. Remember how you wanted to meet my boss? Victoria! Yes! Well, she's going to come have dinner with us Friday night. Pizza, like I promised. Emma's eyes went wide. Really? For real? For real. But Emma, I need to tell you something important. Lucas pulled into their parking spot, turned to face her. Victoria and I are going to start spending time together outside of work. Like dating. Do you know what that means? Emma nodded seriously. Like when Sarah's mom goes on dates with the man who brought flowers. Kind of like that, yes. How do you feel about that? Emma considered the question with 6-year-old solemnity. Is she nice to you? Very nice. Does she make you smile? Yes. Then it's okay. But Daddy? What, sweetheart? Does this mean she might be like a mommy someday? Lucas's throat tightened. I don't know. We're just starting to get to know each other that way. But if it gets serious, you'll be part of every decision.
Your feelings matter most, okay?
Okay. Emma unbuckled herself. Can we make cookies before she comes on Friday? I want everything to be perfect.
That night, Lucas texted Victoria. Told Emma about Friday. She wants to make cookies to impress you. No pressure then. I'll bring my A game. She asked if you might be like a mommy someday. I told her we're taking things slow. The response took longer.
How did she react?
She said, as long as you're nice to me and make me smile, it's okay. Smart kid. The smartest. No pressure, but she's going to judge you pretty hard. I'd expect nothing less. Friday at 6? Perfect. The week crawled toward Friday with agonizing slowness. Lucas navigated the new reporting structure with Richard, who was professional and supportive, making it clear he'd earned his position regardless of personal complications. The gossip continued but began to settle into background noise as people realized there was no scandal to uncover, just two adults being transparent about a relationship. Victoria maintained careful distance at work, but they texted in the evenings. Nothing inappropriate, just the kind of getting-to-know-you conversations people had at the beginning of something new. Lucas learned that she'd grown up in Boston, that her father had been a corporate attorney who taught her to value precision and logic, that her mother had died when Victoria was 16, and she'd essentially raised herself after that. The loneliness Lucas had recognized in her made perfect sense now. She learned about his childhood in the Midwest, his decision to move to the city for work, how he'd met Sarah at a coffee shop where she'd been reading a book he loved. He told her about Sarah's passion for teaching, her terrible singing voice, the way she'd made their small apartment feel like home through sheer force of personality. I'm not trying to replace her, Victoria texted Thursday night. I want you to know that. I know, and I'm not looking for a replacement. Sarah was Sarah. You're you. Both can matter. I'm nervous about tomorrow. Me too, but Emma's excited, and she's usually a good judge of character. What if she hates me? She won't, but she will absolutely test you. Fair warning. Friday arrived with snow flurries, light and pretty, dusting the city in white. Lucas left work early to prepare, cleaning the apartment with Emma's enthusiastic help, setting the table, ordering pizza from the good place that used real mozzarella. What should I wear? Emma asked, pulling dresses from her closet. Whatever makes you comfortable, sweetheart. This isn't a fancy dinner. Emma settled on her favorite purple dress with leggings, then insisted on helping Lucas pick his shirt. They were debating between blue and gray when the doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Lucas opened the door to find Victoria holding a bottle of wine and looking more nervous than he'd ever seen her. She'd dressed down, jeans, a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. Without the armor of professional attire, she looked younger, more vulnerable. Hi, she said. Hi, come in. Emma appeared behind Lucas, suddenly shy. Victoria knelt down to her level. You must be Emma. I've heard so much about you. I made cookies, Emma said. They're chocolate chip. My favorite. Thank you for having me over. The initial awkwardness dissolved quickly. They ate pizza at the kitchen table, Emma peppering Victoria with questions about her job, her apartment, whether she had any pets, what her favorite color was. Victoria answered each question seriously, never condescending, treating Emma like a person whose opinions mattered. Do you like my daddy? Emma asked at one point, direct as only children can be. Very much, Victoria said without hesitation. Are you going to break his heart? Lucas nearly choked on his pizza. Emma, it's okay. Victoria met Emma's eyes steadily. That's a fair question. I'm going to try very hard not to. But Emma, relationships are complicated. Sometimes, even when people care about each other, things don't work out. If that happens with your dad and me, I promise I'll be honest and kind about it. And I'll never stop caring about you or wanting good things for both of you, okay? Emma considered this. Okay, can I show you my room now? Lucas cleaned up while Victoria was given the grand tour. Emma's books, her art projects, the photos of Sarah that Lucas had framed and hung at Emma's eye level so she'd never forget her mother's face. He heard Emma's voice explaining each picture, heard Victoria's gentle questions and encouraging responses. When they emerged 20 minutes later, Emma was holding Victoria's hand. "She's good at bedtime stories," Emma announced. "She did all the voices." "High praise," Lucas said, meeting Victoria's eyes over his daughter's head. After Emma was tucked in, Lucas and Victoria sat on the couch with wine, the apartment quiet except for the ambient city noise filtering through the windows. "She's incredible," Victoria said. "You've done an amazing job with her." "She makes it easy. Well, easier, most of the time." Lucas set down his glass. "Thank you for tonight, for being patient with her questions, for treating her like she matters." "Of course she matters. She's the most important person in your life. I'd never compete with that or try to diminish it." "I know. That's why this might actually work." Victoria shifted closer, her shoulder touching his. "Can I be honest about something?" "Always." "I'm scared of how much I already feel for you, for both of you. I've spent so long convincing myself I didn't need this kind of connection, and now that I have it, I'm terrified of doing something to destroy it." Lucas took her hand. "So we'll be careful. We'll communicate. We'll make mistakes and figure out how to fix them. Together." "Together," Victoria echoed. "I like the sound of that." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Victoria's head eventually resting on Lucas's shoulder, his arm around her waist. It felt natural, easy, like something they'd been doing for years instead of minutes. "I should probably go," Victoria said eventually. "Early meeting tomorrow. I'll walk you down." At her car, Victoria turned to face him. "Thank you for tonight, for letting me into your life this way. Thank you for showing up, for taking the risk." Victoria kissed him then, soft and tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Lucas pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, feeling years of loneliness and careful control finally release. When they separated, Victoria's eyes were bright. "I'll call you tomorrow?" "Please." Lucas watched her drive away, then returned to the apartment feeling lighter than he had in years. Emma's door was cracked open, and when he peeked in, she was awake. "I like her," Emma whispered. "She's pretty and smart, and she laughs at my jokes." "She is all those things." "Are you happy, Daddy?" Lucas sat on the edge of Emma's bed. "I'm getting there, sweetheart. I think I'm finally getting there." The next weeks unfolded with careful, deliberate joy. Lucas and Victoria dated like normal people. Dinners at quiet restaurants, movies on weekends, long walks through the city while Emma was at school. They learned each other's rhythms, discovered shared interests in architecture and obscure music, debated politics and philosophy over coffee. At work, they maintained professional distance, but the stress of hiding had evaporated. People knew, people talked, but the gossip gradually faded as no scandal materialized. Lucas's performance remained excellent, Victoria's leadership uncompromised, and the company continued to thrive. Emma warmed to Victoria gradually, testing boundaries and asking difficult questions, but eventually accepting her presence as normal. She started inviting Victoria to school events, wanting to show off her art projects, asking Victoria's opinion on important 6-year-old matters. "She's attached to you," Lucas observed one evening after Victoria had helped Emma with a science project. "I'm attached to her too. Is that okay?" "More than okay, just be careful with her heart. She's already lost one important woman. I couldn't handle it if she lost another." Victoria took his face in her hands. "I'm not going anywhere, Lucas, not unless you want me to." "I don't. Ever." 3 months into their relationship, Victoria met Margaret. The dinner was formal at first, Sarah's mother clearly assessing whether this new woman was worthy of her son-in-law and granddaughter. But Victoria won her over with honesty, admitting she couldn't replace Sarah, that she didn't want to, that her only goal was to make Lucas and Emma's lives better in whatever way they'd allow. "She's good for you," Margaret told Lucas privately. "Sarah would approve." "You think?" "I know. She'd want you to be happy, to give Emma a full life with love and stability. Victoria offers that." By summer, they'd fallen into an easy routine. Victoria spent most weekends at Lucas's apartment, though she maintained her own place for work purposes. They navigated the complications of blending their lives. Victoria's demanding schedule, Lucas's parental responsibilities, the ongoing scrutiny from the office. But they also discovered something neither had expected: partnership that actually worked. Victoria learned to leave work at the office sometimes, to be present for Emma's soccer games and school performances. Lucas learned to accept help, to lean on Victoria when he was overwhelmed, to share the burden instead of carrying everything alone. Emma thrived with the stability. Her grades were excellent, her friendships strong, her confidence growing. She still talked about Sarah, still kept her mother's memory alive through stories and photos, but she'd also made room in her heart for Victoria. "Can Victoria come to the father-daughter dance?" Emma asked one evening. "I know it's supposed to be just you and me, but she's part of our family now." Lucas's heart squeezed. "Of course she can, if she wants to."
"I want to," Victoria said from the doorway, having overheard. "I'd be honored." The dance was chaos and joy, terrible music, overexcited children, parents trying to keep up with endless energy. Lucas danced with Emma for the traditional songs, but when Victoria cut in for a silly pop number, Emma's face lit up with pure happiness. Watching them together, Lucas felt the final piece of his broken heart settle back into place. This was his family now, rebuilt from grief, stronger for having survived it, imperfect but whole. A year after the HR meeting, Victoria was offered a CEO position at a larger company. The salary was enormous, the prestige significant, the opportunity impossible to ignore. She came to Lucas's apartment to discuss it, her conflict evident. "It's everything I've worked toward," she said, "but it would mean longer hours, more travel, possibly relocating in a few years. What do you want to do?" Victoria looked at Emma, coloring at the kitchen table, then at Lucas. "I want to stay. I want this life we've built. The career is important, but it's not everything anymore." "You should take it," Lucas said quietly. Victoria's eyes widened. "What?" "You should take it. It's your dream. I won't be the reason you give up on something that important. But, Emma, our life together, we'll adapt. We'll figure it out. You taught me that the right workplace makes room for whole human beings. That applies to you too." Victoria took his hands. "Are you sure?" "Completely. Take the job, Victoria. Be brilliant. We'll be here when you get home." She accepted the position, and they navigated the transition together. Lucas cut back his hours slightly, using the flexibility his senior director role afforded. Victoria traveled more, but came home to them, to dinners and bedtime stories and weekend adventures. It wasn't perfect. They argued about schedules and priorities, struggled with fatigue and stress, faced ongoing scrutiny as their relationship became more public. But they worked through it, choosing each other again and again, building something sustainable. 2 years after that first dinner, on a quiet Sunday morning with Emma at a sleepover, Victoria and Lucas sat in their new apartment, bigger, with room for everyone, truly theirs. "I have something to ask you," Victoria said, her nervousness evident. Lucas set down his coffee. "Okay." "I know we've talked about the future in abstract terms, but I want to make it concrete." She pulled a small box from her pocket. "Lucas Reed, you walked into my life broken and determined, and you changed everything. You taught me that leadership could be compassionate, that vulnerability was strength, that love didn't mean losing yourself. You gave me Emma, who I love like my own. You gave me a family I didn't know I needed." Her hands trembled slightly. "I'm not asking you to give up Sarah's memory or pretend I can fill that space. I'm asking you to build something new with me, to choose this life we've created, officially and permanently. Will you marry me?" Lucas stared at the ring, simple, elegant, exactly right, and felt tears burn his eyes. "Yes, absolutely yes." Victoria slid the ring onto his finger, and they held each other in the morning light, two people who'd survived their separate griefs and found each other on the other side. When they told Emma that evening, she screamed with joy and insisted on planning the entire wedding immediately. Lucas and Victoria led her, watching her excitement with shared amusement and deep gratitude. "Are you happy?" Victoria asked Lucas later, after Emma had finally fallen asleep mid-planning session. Lucas pulled her close. "I'm more than happy. I'm whole. For the first time since Sarah died, I feel completely whole." "Me too," Victoria whispered. "You and Emma, you're everything I didn't know I needed." They married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Emma was the flower girl, wearing purple and beaming with pride. Margaret cried happy tears. The company sent an enormous gift basket. Lucas's vows included a promise to honor Sarah's memory while building a new future.
Victoria's included a promise to always make room for both career and family, to never ask Lucas or Emma to be less than they were. Standing at the altar, exchanging rings, Lucas looked at his daughter's joyful face and his soon-to-be wife's steady gaze and felt the crushing weight of grief finally, fully lift. He'd survived the impossible. He'd rebuilt from nothing. He'd learned that starting over didn't mean forgetting what came before, but rather carrying it forward with purpose and love. The reception was joyful chaos. Emma danced with everyone. Victoria's professional composure cracked into genuine laughter, and Lucas felt surrounded by love in a way he'd thought lost forever. Late in the evening, Victoria found him alone for a moment, watching Emma teach the CFO's husband how to do the floss. "No regrets?" she asked. Lucas kissed her softly. "Not a single one." "Good, because you're stuck with me now." "Best decision I ever made." "Well, second best." "Emma's still number one," Victoria laughed. "As it should be." They rejoined the celebration, two people who'd walked through darkness alone and found each other in the light. The future stretched ahead, complex, demanding, uncertain, in all the ways life always was. But they'd face it together, a family forged from loss and choice, and the stubborn belief that broken things could be made whole again. Lucas had walked into that glass tower carrying exhaustion and grief, barely surviving. He walked out of his wedding carrying hope and joy and the absolute certainty that he was exactly where he belonged. Sometimes the greatest stories weren't about avoiding pain, but about what you built after it, about the courage to try again, about choosing love even when it meant risk, choosing vulnerability even when safety seemed smarter, choosing life even when survival had felt like enough. Lucas Reed had chosen life, and life, in all its messy, complicated, beautiful glory, had chosen him back.